Welcome to my channel, The Historic State. In the chaos of war, amidst the thunder of artillery and the screams of the wounded, there are those whose mission is not to destroy, but to heal. Military medics, doctors, and nurses stand as a fragile line between life and death, often under fire, always against the clock. But what happens when the very rules designed to bring order to chaos become shackles? What happens when saving a life demands breaking every protocol, defying every order, and challenging the very authority you swore to uphold? Today, we tell the extraordinary story of a military medic who faced this impossible choice. He was a hero to the men he saved, but a rogue, a rule breaker, to the rigid system he served. This is the saga of a man who risked court-martial, his career, and even his freedom, to prove that on the battlefield, humanity must always come before regulations. NNTHE year is 1968. The jungles of Vietnam are a hellscape of searing heat, suffocating humidity, and constant brutal combat. Every firefight is a desperate struggle, and for the wounded, time is a cruel enemy. In the midst of this terrifying chaos was specialist John Doc Miller. Barely out of medical training, Miller was assigned to a combat infantry unit, a medic thrown into the deep end of hell. His job was simple: keep the men alive long enough to get them to a field hospital. But the reality of combat was far more complex, far more gruesome than any textbook could describe. He quickly learned that military rules, designed for order and efficiency, often clashed violently with the desperate, immediate need to save a life. Back in medical school, Doc Miller had been a top student, idealistic and meticulous. He learned every protocol by the book: sterile procedures, strict triage, the precise chain of command for evacuating wounded. His instructors drilled into them the paramount importance of following regulations. On the battlefield, rules save lives, they'd say. Discipline, not improvisation, prevents chaos. Miller, with a curious mind, once asked about scenarios where rules might hinder immediate life-saving. He was quickly shut down. "Soldier, you follow orders," he was told. He believed it then. He would soon learn that belief would be severely tested. NNTHE first few months in Vietnam hardened Doc Miller. He saw men die not just from bullets, but from infection, from blood loss, from delays in evacuation due to protocol. His heart ached, but his hands moved faster. His mind worked quicker. He started bending small rules, making quick, on-the-spot decisions that saved precious minutes. He even treated local villagers caught in the crossfire, sharing his limited supplies, much to the quiet disapproval of some officers. His commanding officer, Captain Ramirez, a by-the-book veteran, repeatedly warned him, "Miller, your job is to save our men. Resources are for our men. And there's a chain of command for everything. You stray too far, you'll break more than just regulations." Miller understood the logic, but his conscience screamed louder. NNTHE incident that would define Doc Miller's career and test his moral courage to its absolute limits came during a brutal engagement in the unforgiving A Shau Valley. A routine patrol had walked straight into a meticulously planned enemy ambush. The fighting was fierce, a relentless torrent of gunfire and explosions. Private Williams, a young, popular soldier, had taken a direct hit to the chest. He was bleeding profusely, gurgling, barely conscious. Miller knew he had minutes, not hours. He immediately called for a Medevac, but the reply was chilling. "Negative, Doc. Enemy fire too heavy. Bad weather front moving in. ETA, unknown. Keep him stable." Miller looked at Williams, his life ebbing away, and a cold fury settled in his stomach. To wait was to sign Williams's death warrant. He had to act. And in that desperate moment, rules ceased to exist. Miller became a whirlwind of improvised action. He ripped open his own combat pack, grabbing his personal water supply and what little tubing he had, fashioning a makeshift IV. He yelled at nearby soldiers, ordering them to move Williams to a clearer spot despite the continuing enemy fire. Then, ignoring all protocol, he snatched the radio from the unit's communications specialist. "This is Doc Miller," he screamed into the mic, bypassing Captain Ramirez and going straight to the Medevac pilot. "I have a priority Alpha. GSW to the chest. Losing him. We need you in now, coordinates X-Ray Yankee Zulu. You hear me? Now!" The air crackled with silence. Then the pilot's shocked voice. "Doc, that's a direct violation. I need Captain Ramirez's direct authorization." Miller didn't hesitate. "You want an authorization? Come get it yourself. This man dies, it's on you." Moments later, a Medevac helicopter, ignoring standing orders, defied the heavy enemy fire and roared through the jungle canopy. Miller, utterly exposed to enemy bullets, stood in the open, waving frantically, guiding the pilot to their precarious landing zone. He personally supervised Williams being loaded, his hands stained with blood, his face grim. Captain Ramirez watched the scene unfold, his face a complex mixture of fury at Miller's insubordination and grudging, silent admiration for his raw courage. The helicopter lifted off, a fragile promise of life disappearing into the sky. Miller had saved Williams, but he knew, with chilling certainty, he had signed his own death warrant, professionally speaking. When Miller returned to base, there was no celebration. He was immediately confronted by a livid Captain Ramirez. "Specialist Miller, you deliberately bypassed the chain of command, you risked a valuable asset, and you endangered your fellow soldiers with an unauthorized extraction." Ramirez roared, his face red with anger. "You are relieved of duty. Your medical kit is confiscated. You are under arrest pending a full inquiry." A grim-faced General Wallace, known for his strict adherence to regulations, arrived shortly after. Miller was escorted away, his head held high, looking defiant but calm. He had saved a life, and he would pay the price. NNTHE formal inquiry, a thinly veiled court-martial, was a sterile, unforgiving affair. Miller stood before a panel of stern, unyielding officers, his fate hanging in the balance. Captain Ramirez testified, methodically outlining every single regulation Miller had broken, every protocol he had ignored. The case looked bleak. Miller was a hero to the men, but a clear violation of procedure to the system. But then, a figure walked into the courtroom, leaning on crutches, pale but alive. It was Private Williams, miraculously recovered, a living testament to Miller's defiance. He spoke simply, powerfully. "Doc Miller didn't break rules," Williams said, his voice raw with emotion. "He just didn't let me die. He chose life." Then Private Williams's testimony, combined with the quiet support from other rescued soldiers, swayed the panel. They couldn't ignore the living proof of Miller's heroism. In the end, Doc Miller was found guilty of insubordination and bypassing the chain of command. He faced a severe reprimand, but instead of a court-martial, General Wallace surprisingly overruled the harsh recommendations. "Specialist Miller," Wallace declared, his voice firm, "you are a menace to military order, but you are a miracle to men on the brink of death. You will be commended for bravery. And you will be transferred to a MASH unit. Perhaps there your unconventional talents can be put to better use without upsetting quite so many regulations." Miller walked out a free man, his integrity intact, his reputation among the grunts solidified as legendary, and at the MASH unit, Doc Miller found his true calling. The fluid, desperate environment, far from the rigid command structure, allowed his unconventional genius to flourish. He still broke rules, but now, with a knowing nod from his commanding officers, who recognized his unique talent for snatching lives from the jaws of death. He improvised, he defied, he healed. He became a legend, a beacon of hope for the thousands of wounded who passed through his care. His story, whispered from foxhole to operating table, reminded everyone that true heroism isn't always about following orders. Sometimes, it's about following your conscience, even if it means risking everything. NNNT, thank you for watching The Historic State. If this incredible story of a medic who defied orders to save lives moved you, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Because here, we believe that true duty lies not in blind obedience, but in the unwavering courage to choose humanity, even in the heart of hell.